Access granted.
Raspberry Pi Pico has a total of 40 pins or GPIOs, out of which 26 GPIOs are multi-purpose. Since Raspberry Pi Pico is based on a 3.3 volt compatible controller board RP2040, so the operating voltage on these GPIOs should not exceed 3.3 volts. Now, out of these 26 pins, 23 pins GPIO 0 to GPIO 22 are digital only, and 3 pins GPIO 26 to GPIO 28 can either be used as digital GPIOs or as ADC inputs. Raspberry Pi Pico has 2 SPI pins, 2 I2C pins, 2 UART pins, 16 controllable PWM pins, and 9 ground pins. On the back side, you can see all the pins are clearly labeled. This board has 3 extra serial wire debug port pins. VBus is the micro USB input voltage connected to micro USB port pin 1. This is normally 5 volt or 0 if the USB is not connected or not powered. VSys is the main system input voltage, which can vary in the allowed range of 1.8 volts to 5.5 volts and is used by the onboard Raspberry Pi Pico SMPS switched mode power supply to generate 3.3 volt for the RP2040 and its GPIOs. 3.3 volt enable connects to the onboard SMPS enable pin and is pulled high to VSys through a 100 kilo ohm resistor to disable the 3.3 volt, which also depowers the RP2040, short this pin low. 3.3 volt is the main 3.3 volt supply to RP2040 and its I/O pins generated by the onboard SMPS. This pin can be used to power external circuitry. Maximum output current will depend on RP2040 load and VSys voltage. It is recommended to keep the load on this pin less than 300 milliamps. ADC VREF is the ADC power supply and reference voltage and is generated on Pico by filtering the 3.3 volt supply. This pin can be used with an external reference if better ADC performance is required. A ground is the ground reference for GPIOs 26 to 29. There is a separate analog ground plane running under these signals and terminating at this pin. If the ADC is not used or ADC performance is not critical, this pin can be connected to a digital ground. I have talked much about the GPIOs and other pins. You can download this pinout diagram from our website electronicclinic.com. I will provide a link in the description. There are so many other technical things which I have already included in the article. So if you want to know more about the Raspberry Pi Pico, then go ahead and read my article. Anyway, now let's take a look at the Raspberry Pi Pico onboard components. On the board you can see all the components. This is the main RP2040 dual-core Arm Cortex M0 Plus processor. This is the 2 MB quad SPI flash. This is the boot selection button. This is the onboard LED which is connected with GB25. This is the micro B USB board which is used for power and also for the data transfer.